Good evening, everyone. Good evening, mayoral candidates. Good evening, moderators. Good evening, timekeepers. If we could all rise for the flag salute before we jump into this debate. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for coming to tonight's mayoral candidate forum. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Hoboken High School, proudly sponsored by the Hoboken Public School District in partnership with the Hoboken Middle School and High School student governments, our 3 district unions representing our teachers, certificated staff, support staff and administrators, and of course, our Board of Education. Tonight is more than just a forum, it's a living civics lesson. It gives our students, families, and community members the opportunity to witness the democratic process in action, one that is grounded in respectful discourse, civic engagement, and informed participation. As educators, we believe deeply that democracy is not something that happens far away in Washington or in Trenton. It happens right here in our neighborhoods, in our schools, and in our city. This evening demonstrates that government works best when people come together to share ideas and to listen to one another with open minds and civil hearts. To our students in attendance, I want you to know how meaningful it is that you are here with us tonight. You represent the next generation of leaders, voters, and advocates. What you observe tonight will help you understand not only how elections shape our city, but also how dialogue, respect, and participation can shape the kind of community that we all want to live in. When I visit classrooms across our district, I often see students engaged in thoughtful discussions about fairness, community, and leadership. Not long ago, I listened to a group of middle school students debating about how to make their school a little bit more welcoming. And one student said, if we want people to listen to us, we have to listen to them first. That simple statement stayed with me because at democracy's core is listening before leading. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said that democracy depends on people being ready to make thoughtful, informed choices, and that education is its greatest safeguard. Tonight, that's exactly what we're doing. We are preparing our students to think critically, to engage respectfully, and to choose wisely as members of a democratic community. I would like to thank our student governments for their initiative and leadership in helping to organize this event. You have set an example for civic involvement at its best. I also extend my gratitude to our Board of Education members and our union partners. Your collaboration ensures that our schools continue to be places where both learning and democracy can thrive. Finally, I would like to thank our mayoral candidates for joining us this evening. Your willingness to engage with our students and our community speaks volumes about your commitment to Hoboken and to public service. I ask that throughout tonight's discussion, we remember that our goal is not to simply share ideas, but also to listen and to understand, for that is how we move forward together as a community. Thank you for all being here and for demonstrating what it means to be active and engaged. I would also like to remind everyone that all mayoral candidates were provided 7 questions to answer in writing ahead of this debate. The responses that were requested back in writing have been posted on our website. We appreciate the time that you took to answer all of those questions, just as you did for 1 or 2 other debates maybe prior or forums prior. Our district staff members and families will be extremely grateful to have the chance to read your responses. Tonight's forum will be recorded and it will be uploaded to our district's YouTube channel, and it will be posted on our website as well. Now it is my honor to introduce you to our student timekeepers. Those are the 2 students that are sitting in front of you. We have Cameron Daly, who is a sophomore at Hoboken High School, and we have Lucas Daly, who is a senior at Hoboken High School. They will be watching the clock tonight. We will begin the forum with 2-minute opening statements by each candidate. You will be notified when you have 30 seconds left. You will be notified when you have 15 seconds left. And finally, you'll be notified when your time is up. Then we also have our moderators who are on the stage right behind me over here. We have Kevin Melendez, who's a junior at Hoboken High School. We have Ava Pinn, who is a senior at Hoboken High School, and Claire Snyder, who is a senior at Hoboken High School as well. And then we also have Maya Makendra, who's a 7th grader at Hoboken Middle School. We also have at the table Mr. Christopher Munoz, who is our student government advisor at the high school and our coordinator of student activities. Candidates, you will be asked questions by our moderators. They will be rotating questions, and each question, each of you on the stage will have the opportunity to answer in order, but we will rotate so that each person is not answering in the same order for each question. With these questions, you will have 90 minutes. I'm sorry, that would be a really long time. You will have 90 seconds to answer each question, and there will also be 30 minutes for any rebuttal if by some chance you need that.
30 seconds.
What's that?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. 30 seconds for the rebuttal. And if you have any need to have a rebuttal, our timekeepers will let you know when you have 15 seconds left. So with that being said, I'm going to ask Mr. Munoz and student government representatives to take it away and begin the forum for us.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, and thank you to the candidates for attending this evening. Our first question of the evening. Good evening, candidates. We are going to kick off tonight's forum by giving each of you 2 minutes to respond to the following question. Kevin, take it away.
What inspired you to run for mayor of Hoboken? And what unique qualities and experiences do you bring that will enable you to lead our city effectively?
Okay, so we'll begin with candidate Ms. Dini Ajmani, then Councilman Dr. Michael Russo, followed by Councilman Mr. Ruben Ramos, Ms. Patricia Waiters, next Councilman Emily Jabbour, and finally Councilwoman Ms. Tiffanie Fisher.
Thank you. I'm Dini Ajmani. I'm running for mayor. I am who I am because of education. It's the only valuable thing I carried with me 38 years ago when I first came to this country. It's the most valuable thing my parents, who were working class, didn't even finish high school, gave to me. It's the thing I hope our daughters, Hannah and Leah, will someday say we have imparted on them. Hannah and Leah were raised in Short Hills, not too far from here. They started their education in public school system and then moved to Pingria private school. We made that decision in that moment. It felt like the right decision. Obviously, we second-guessed it every year. What I could tell from those years is the years they did very well in school were the years when two things happened. One, they had a great teacher, and second, they had a wonderful friend in their section. That's my parenting story. Let me tell you about why I'm running. A very wise person once said, your character is your destiny. It is not in my character to sit on the sidelines. It's just not. I cannot sit on the sidelines when I see our city not being managed well. Year after year, we see the same problems. E-bikes on our sidewalks, public safety, broken roads, water main breaks. I could sit on the sideline or I could jump in, and I've decided to jump in. I have experience that the city needs. I was assistant treasurer for the state of New Jersey. I've managed big budgets, managed complex organizations. I had 400 people reporting into me. I am ready for this. I hope you will give me the opportunity. Thank you.
Once a Red Wing, always a Red Wing. I'm a proud graduate of Hoboken High School, born, raised, and educated right here in this city, right here in this building, as a matter of fact. I'm the only candidate in the race who went through Hoboken's public schools, who walked these halls, and who bled on that field. This city didn't just shape me, it made me who I am. And now I'm raising my 4 kids here because I still believe in Hoboken's promise. But let's be honest, that promise is slipping away. Families are being priced out of Hoboken, and our neighbors are being displaced. Our housing crisis is squeezing the middle class. Parking and traffic are an absolute nightmare, and our residents don't feel safe. Reckless e-bikes are going unchecked, and homelessness across Hoboken is growing, while far too many just look the other way. These aren't talking points. These are our daily realities that we all live with. And the truth is, Hoboken deserves better. That's why I'm running for mayor. I've released real, concrete solutions, not empty slogans. And what have my opponents done? They've tried to emulate those policies or attack them because they don't have a clear vision of their own. As mayor, I will expand middle-class housing. I will fix our parking and traffic nightmare. I will enforce our laws across the board without exception. I will eliminate the disconnect between the City of Hoboken and the Board of Education. And most importantly, I will keep us all safe. Others in this race will point fingers, make excuses, and recycle the same tired attacks. I won't. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it, period. Hoboken can't afford 4 more years of inactivity, excuses, and decay. This city needs bold, decisive leadership. Leadership that delivers real solutions for real people. That's the choice in this election, and that's the mayor I will be.
Pardon me, Mr. Benson, I don't think Lucas's mic's on. Okay.
Check, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, Hoboken, and thank you to the Hoboken Public School District for sponsoring this event and giving us the opportunity to share our vision for our community's future. My name is Ruben Ramos, and I've spent my entire life in this city. I'm a father, a public school teacher, an NJEA member, a cancer survivor, and I've also served you in City Hall, excuse me. I served you in City Hall as a council member and the State Assembly. I've seen this city grow and change over the years, so I know our strengths and I know our challenges. I'm running for mayor on a Back to Basics platform because I believe we need to keep our local government focused on what matters most. That means taking care of the fundamental needs of our community, public safety, quality of life, and programs that support our families and our seniors. It means a city government that is transparent, accountable, and fiscally responsible. And too often, over the past 10 years, that just hasn't been the case. We face real challenges, from the horrific traffic caused by failed coordination of constant construction projects and road infrastructure roads, to the rising cost of living that is pushing our middle-class families out of Hoboken, to a municipal budget that increased property taxes beyond what is necessary. To solve these problems, we need a mayor with both experience and the focus and be egoless to get the job done, as well as the ability to find common ground and bring people together. Hoboken's potential is limitless, but to get there, we need to get back to basics and build a city that works for all of us. I know that myself and Team Ramos, Laura Mayani, Brito Omano, and Alfredo Velosi are the candidates who can get that done. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to the conversation this evening.
Hello, just what you all been waiting for. My name is Patricia Waiters, and I'm running for mayor. I ran for the Board of Ed, I ran for council, and I also about to run for the border. Our system is very, very broken. I will continue to run just because the demographics said I can't. I want you to notice tonight, I'm a little emotional sitting here, and I want to thank the Board of Ed for at least letting us know there is a democracy and to hear my voice tonight. But I want you to know 27 years of running for the Hoboken Board of Education is what inspired me to continue to run. We have a lot more to do with people that look like me, people that's underserved, people that have it so hard and afraid to come up and be a voice because of retaliation. I'm running for office because we need change. We don't need to talk about it. All of my opponents served over 2 terms in City Hall, and what have our council people done for us lately? We are in the shape we in. Somebody have to take accountability, and I will continue, and you all know I advocate for everybody. Everybody means all. Black, white, whatever your nationality is, whatever the situation is, the same quality of life issues you have, I have. And I'm ready to fight and continue my fight. My experience speaks for itself. Even though you won't collaborate with me, and you haven't collaborated with me for the Board of Ed members out there with the big smiles on your face, because you're still going to get your check. That's why y'all here. I'm telling you again, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere, and I will continue to fight for all the people in Hoboken. That's why I'm running for mayor. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Emily Jabbour. I have lived in Hoboken for 17 years, and I have 2 daughters, a proud Brant Bear and a middle school tiger. My professional background is in social welfare policy. I've spent my entire career working in a research office for the Administration for Children and Families, which is part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. When my oldest daughter was in pre-K at Brant, there was a day when there was an active shooter drill. I was in a classroom and watched these 3-year-olds huddle into a corner. Well, the principal actually came around to the door and did the drill of trying to teach these children to keep quiet, because that's what was required of them. It broke my heart. I went home that day and I reached out to Moms Demand Action, and I started the Hudson County chapter. I started attending community meetings, I went to Coffee with a Cop, and that's when I started attending Board of Education meetings as well. It wasn't long before I found myself having a conversation with then Mayor Don Zimmer about the idea of running for City Council. And when I went to my first council meeting, I found that my voice wasn't being represented. I had 2 young children in the district, I was familiar with volunteerism in the community, and I thought I could have a unique perspective. So for the last 8 years, I have worked tirelessly on the City Council to respond to constituent needs in this community. I have been the most responsive council member and have tried to bridge the gap between the communications coming out of City Hall and the everyday needs of our residents. People joke sometimes I must have a clone because I show up to so many of the community meetings, whether it's activities with this district, any of our other schools in the community, any of the City Council functions, because showing up shows respect for your community, and I have learned a tremendous amount from being involved in so many organizations locally. As mayor, I'm excited to take a new set of priorities into 2026, planning to address strengthening of public safety, creating safer streets, building reliable infrastructure, and a more responsive City Hall. Thank you so much for hosting tonight's forum. I'm excited for this conversation.
Hi everyone, my name is Tiffanie Fisher. I've lived in Hoboken for 31 years. I've been on the City Council for the last 10 years. And I love the question, which is a little different than our opening statement. So I scribbled some notes. I was inspired to run because, quite simply, I love public service, I love Hoboken. And when I consider all of the challenges that the city is facing, financial pressures, safety concerns, operational challenges, I believe that we need change, and I can bring my 23 years experience in finance and management and strategy to make that change and restore our city from great to where it is now to even better. Hoboken grew 20% in the past decade, and we did nothing to support it. And Hoboken is going to grow another 20% in the next 7 or 8 years. That kind of growth brings opportunity, but it also brings responsibility and a lot of challenges. We need strong leadership to plan for it, to make sure our infrastructure, our public safety, open space, recreational programs in space, and especially our schools can keep up. If you imagine 20% more kids coming in over the next 7 or 8 years, right? We don't have enough space now in our schools. Hoboken deserves leadership that's ready to do the work. For 9 years on the City Council, I've focused on solving problems that matter most to residents, from improving our water system and reducing flooding, to making our streets safer, protecting affordability, and holding City Hall accountable, and delivering pilot dollars to our schools. We also need to reset the relationship between City Hall and our schools. one that has been challenged over the past 8 years. I'm proud of my relationship with Dr. Johnson, and as mayor, strengthening that relationship will be my top priority. I run towards tough issues, not away from them. When something isn't working, I fix it. And right now, we need to reset City Hall and how it operates to bring planning, communication, and partnership back. Oh, time? Oh, sorry, okay. And, well, just to say the sentence, and right now we need to reset how City Hall operates to bring planning, communication, and partnership back to the center of how we govern. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. To ask our next question, Ava.
While Hoboken offers many programs for young children, there are limited options for preteens and teens. If elected mayor, how will you commit to creating spaces and opportunities, such as pools, an ice rink, movie theaters, art or dance center, or teen center, that truly serve our age group and make Hoboken a place where young people can gather, grow, and belong?
Okay, let's begin with Councilman Russo, then Councilman Ramos, followed by Ms. Waiters, next Councilman Jabbour, then Councilman Fisher, and then Ms. Ajmani.
Thank you. So recreation for me is very important. It's one of the top priorities that I have going into this election, understanding that our children really need different places to participate in social activities. I'm the only candidate who has specifically spoken about building the city a brand new aquatic center on our waterfront. That center is not just about being just having a pool. That is about incorporating an entire recreational facility, not only on a new Pier B, but interact with Pier A and Pier C so that we can have bigger events, making sure that we have a space for our teens, making sure we have other options that more than what we have right now. Rebuilding our multi-service center, expanding that programming in the building, making sure that it's not just sport related, make sure we have other opportunities. My son Jack, who is not necessarily an athlete, does play sports, but he loves to play chess. Why are we not including other activities when it comes to our recreational facilities? Why do we not have other opportunities like relocating our shelter and utilizing its current location for a teen center? Those are the opportunities that I see in the city of Hoboken, and those are the opportunities that I'll make sure we have when I'm mayor.
The city of Hoboken currently owns property on 15th and Jefferson Street next to our DPW garage. We have a plan in place, fully funded by development dollars, to create an ice rink, a pool on the rooftop, gymnastic space, indoor basketball courts, volleyball facility, moving our senior facility from the multi-service center to that facility. When that facility is built, then we could go to the multi-service center and refurbish and rehabilitate that. Because currently we have no place to go. We had a plan a couple of years ago to rehabilitate the multi-service center, but the facility couldn't close. We had no place to put those services that we currently have, like our senior center, the multi-service center basketball court, and other municipal facilities that we have there. Thirdly, a pool barge is being created currently in the city of Newark, in Port Newark, is being built. Hoboken could help purchase one of those pool barges being constructed to put it on our waterfront. That's the reality. A pier being built between Pier A and Pier C, allowing the Army Corps of Engineers to do that. We already know a pool barge will be allowed. It's going to happen in other parts of New Jersey, and one is already in the East River. We bring that philosophy to Hoboken and have a pool barge for all our residents to utilize.
Again, once my opponent's saying what they could have done, I sat there 9 years, I worked for the Hoboken Board of Education, and it breaks my heart, and I asked a few people that confronted me today, where are you going after school? I don't want to see the kids on a corner or in a casket, and that's where they're headed. There's no programs. Every school, after dismissal, I will open up the gyms in those schools and let them utilize that space. They should have after-school programs that they shouldn't have to pay for. I got 3 letters from 3 parents, and they told me, we have to pay for the after-school program. You're making it extremely impossible for the free and reduced lunch, which you always say that they could go at a reduced price. How you know that reduced price might exceed their rent? It's not fair for people that can't speak up. They have nowhere to go. You're forcing our kids to the street. Utilize the facilities we got here and stop trying to make money off of these outside entities and the ZOGs. We have a Mama Johnson field in the Housing Authority that's locked and we can't use it. Y'all had a pity party when we lost one of our loved ones and named the gym after him, a gym that's locked and they can't use it. It gotta stop, and the demographics speak for itself. Thank you. That's my first priority as mayor.
So this is something I think about a lot because one of the biggest frustrations I think families experience is the lack of sufficient recreational facilities to keep up with the many demands. Our recreation program at the city has been expanding to meet some of that need, but then we're often challenged by the cap on our ability to actually host all of those programs because of a limited footprint. So prioritizing the use of the multi-service center by renovating it in a more efficient way and expanding the amount of different offerings that are there is one of my first priorities. Also, we have been in negotiations with the city and the YMCA to acquire that property so we can bring that back online. That was an incredible, beautiful facility, and it is just sitting there, underutilized. So we need to bring that back to life. Those are great options that the city can provide. I know that the district has a history of providing a program called the Eagle's Nest that was here at the gym. I think the frustration with that is that kids don't necessarily always want to be in the same space all day long. And so by diversifying the different recreational facilities that the city can then provide, I think that that sort of model, but applying it in a different space, would be of interest. In the 2024 budget, I also put forward an amendment to hire a youth services coordinator. In the last year, that person has started and has already been expanding our cultural affairs offerings, bringing cultural art programs, performing arts programs, and soon, hopefully, a mentoring program as well. Those are the kinds of the programs the city needs to do in partnership with the district, and ultimately, we also need to come up with additional employment opportunities, whether that's partnering with the HBA or internships at City Hall. Thank you.
So I think two different categories. One is a capital plan for a new recreation center, which I'll come back to, but the other is really more of a strategic review of recreation in Hoboken and creating a recreation advisory committee made up of members of our community. We've been talking about doing something like this since I've been on the council for a decade, and that includes parents, it includes adults, it includes seniors, and when we think of all of the uses that are competing for our space right now, we don't even know what all the spaces are that are available within the city. As Pat Waiters just said, a number of our facilities are significantly underutilized that the city owns, and sometimes that's just because the city doesn't feel like spending money on security for it. So we need to do a wholesome review of all of the spaces, including district spaces, including city spaces, maybe other private spaces, Stevens, and sitting down and partnering with everyone and seeing what we can do as a community to free up as much space as possible and have a community advisory group have the seat at that table. Right now we have one person in City Hall that makes a lot of those decisions, and that's not representative of our community. Second, a capital project is redoing the multi-service and the why, as Emily mentioned. This is something that we talk about, but we've had an administration that actually just didn't know how to do it. I have a tremendous amount of experience in large project management, real estate, et cetera. It's completely doable, it's difficult, and we just have to sit down and get it done. Thanks.
You heard a lot of grand plans, and I'm all for them. But where will the money come from? We don't have money in this city. In fact, just to pass the budget this year, they had to drain what's precious rainy day fund just so they can pass the budget. So there is no money sitting aside to build all these grand plans. But take a look at Weehawken. Weehawken has a pool, we don't. They have 15,000 people, we have 65,000 people. Their taxpayers didn't have to spend a penny to get that pool. Because there is a lot of money sitting at the county and the state level for us to tap into. That is my superpower. I have worked for 4 years in Trenton. I know the county executive well. I've worked for 4 years in DC. I know which agencies are responsible for building things like this for municipalities that need them. I will tap those resources and bring them to Hoboken. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For the next question, I'd like to call on Maya.
Enforcing rules and laws can be challenging in any city, but with clear expectations and consistent oversight, it's achievable. One ongoing concern in Hoboken involves individuals on bikes, whether for recreation, transportation, or food delivery, who often disregard traffic and safety regulations. If elected mayor, how will you strengthen enforcement, promote safety for all residents, and improve the overall quality of life affected by these issues?
Okay, we'll start with Councilman Ramos, followed by Ms. Waiters, next Councilwoman Jabbour, then Councilwoman Fisher, and then Ms. Ajmani, and then we'll end with Dr. Russo.
Thank you for the question. I think Mr. Munoz and other educators in the room tonight could probably relate to this question a little bit. And it equates to classroom management, right? If you don't enforce rules consistently every day in your classroom, you'll have mayhem in your classroom every single day. And that's basically what we have with the e-bike situation in the city of Hoboken. We have the laws that are passed, but the law is not enforced. We have the test and vest ordinance where they're supposed to be wearing vests individuals, and it's illegal to ride an e-bike on a sidewalk to begin with, but it's not being enforced. So like my classroom, we'll make sure that the police department and a quality of life division that we'll create are enforcing those rules every single day. Right now we have mayhem in our streets. It's almost like having a substitute teacher in our classroom. Again, Dr. Johnson knows how that is. We have substitute teachers in our classrooms. It's just mayhem taking place throughout our city. So we need that enforcement. We need that consistency every single day, from top to bottom. You need that vertical alignment, where everyone understands what the mission is. The mission is to get the e-bikes off the sidewalks. The mission is to have them wearing the vest. The mission is to make sure that we're identifying all those wrongdoers. Once the mission is getting cleared from the top, going all to the bottom, our streets will be a lot safer for all of us. Thank you.
I must totally agree with Ruben. I jumped into action. I got sick of the bikes on the sidewalk. I got sick of almost hitting somebody with their cell phone crossing the street with their head down. I got up on my Saturday, on my weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and I enforced the you must wear a vest. I took pictures of everybody on the bike that rode by me without a vest. Me, a few guys from the police department, we stopped, we wrote them up, we gave them an opportunity to register for the vest. Talking is one thing, action is another. I will continue to enforce that, and hopefully a great idea that Michael Russo put forth, get a destination where they could park the bikes there and walk and deliver the food. And I think that's a great suggestion to start with. But the bikes are out of control. Your issues and concerns are the same as mine. I tried, and we do have to enforce a little more. Thank you.
So reckless e-bikes are certainly a problem. We hear it every day. It doesn't matter how old you are, moving around the city has become more challenging because of that. At the same time, our delivery drivers are seemingly an essential part of Hoboken's everyday economy. If you speak to small business owners, they rely on it from a marketing perspective. And frankly, we could easily solve this if we just banned all the apps, but I have a feeling people wouldn't like that very much. So how do we address this better? A community policing bureau will put more people on the streets in terms of visibility around public safety and enforcement. That can help deter this, number one. But number two, we need to have this conversation at the regional level, because part of the issue here is that these are not just drivers who are servicing Hoboken. They're also going to Jersey City. Often they're coming across on the PATH train and going to New York City. There's no city that has been able to solve this with an elegant solution. There's no silver bullet. But we need to have this conversation with leadership across all of our municipalities as well as the county, because that also brings more resources to bear, whether that's with the sheriff's office or with our colleagues over in Jersey City. It's a really challenging issue, but I think the apps also need to be part of this. If we have the technology to better challenge the way that Lime scooters, for example, are programmed, which we learned through the pilot program, you could actually geofence to make sure that if a scooter was ending up on the sidewalk, it would shut down the level of speed. We need to apply technological solutions to this by working with the apps and creating incentives for good behavior. Thank you.
So We have rules. We have the tests and vests, which you've heard a couple colleagues, and I'm sure Councilman Russo will mention it as well. This has been an issue for a couple years. It was originally championed by Councilman Presenzano, and we put it forth to educate the bike riders, to have them take a quiz, wear a vest so they are more visible for their own safety, for everyone's safety. And then what happened is politics got in the way. We had an administration that didn't want to support good policies by their political opponents and obstructed it every step of the way. Councilman Jabbour voted against it, and Mayor Bala, literally when it went into effect, said, we're just not going to buy vests. So after 2 or 3 months of it being effective, we had 500 people register and 20 vests were handed out. So that's a law that will put parameters around it and definitely improve safety. We need community policing in Hoboken to do more of enforcement. I would have our police immediately day one start enforcing more. They originally said that they weren't going to do it, and then they're out there opportunistically enforcing our laws. And lastly, we need to have the apps be part of this conversation. We need to require that they have a business permit, and we need to require that they have insurance, liability insurance, in case, heaven forbid, someone really gets hurt in Hoboken. That's something Boston is doing right now, and we should be leveraging best practices in other cities.
This is an example of ineffectiveness of our city government, that we haven't been able to solve this problem. It is not unique to us. There are best practices around the country of how cities have resolved this. And we can learn from those. First of all, who has the best oversight over whether a rider is breaking the rules? Skipped a stop sign, going the wrong way on a one-way. It's the apps. They have constant eye on these riders. So why are we having our police enforce? Why don't we have the apps do it? They already have the technology and the whereabouts. Second thing that New York City has done, which has been very effective, is limit the number of riders per app. One of the reasons they take shortcuts and go the wrong way is because their compensation, their livelihood depends on the speed with which they deliver, because they're competing with each other. Imagine if there were fewer riders, then that pressure gets taken off, and therefore there is more willingness to follow the rules. We don't need to reinvent this wheel. There are lots of examples that the country has already given us, other municipalities have already given us. We just have to pick and choose the one that worked for Hoboken.
Thank you. For our next question, I'd like to call on Claire. Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. Sorry, Councilman Russo.
That's all right. For me, this is not only a safety issue, but this is a political will issue. So we've heard the problem restated a number of times, and we've heard all the reasons why we may be able to work with someone other than the city of Hoboken or someone other than a potential mayor. You need to take the bull by the horns here. It needs to be immediate. The directive on day one would be to the police department that anyone is in violation of any law in the city of Hoboken when it comes to riding our e-bikes or bikes on our sidewalk, they're ticketed immediately. If they continue to do that, their bikes will be impounded. Those are immediate actions that the city can take. We can allocate a small number of e-bike delivery drivers on each block rather than having 15 or 20 congregate outside one establishment. That is something I, as mayor, will be able to do immediately. I don't have to rely on the county. I don't have to rely on others. When we talk about the apps, I'm not going to just sit in a room and have a conversation and hope and pray. I'm going to mandate exactly what they need so that our city becomes safe for all of our residents. Thank you.
I apologize. Now I'd like to call on Claire
30-second rebuttal time?
for the next question. You'd like to have a 30-second rebuttal time?
I thought Dr. Johnson said that's fine.
Yes. Would someone like to rebut?
Yeah,
I thought you said no rebuttals. I would have rebutted 10 times already.
No, we did say in the beginning that there was a 30-second rebuttal time, if you so chose to. So, go ahead.
I just want to clarify, When Councilman President Zano and I co-sponsored the Test and Invest ordinance, we did work with Jersey City. And Jersey City passed a similar ordinance to what we did in Hoboken. But they're suffering from the same thing that we are. Lack of enforcement, lack of will to try and get the job done on a day-to-day basis. One other thing we need to do to take it a step further, the e-bikers are parking their bikes along the path station, taking up all that precious bike space there as well. We have to stop that from happening. They're way too comfortable in taking up what our resident space is for those going to work in the morning, going to the path station, leaving their bike there. They're taking up that space as well. That's another issue that we need to address on day one.
Time.
Would anyone else like to rebut? No? Okay, not hearing any, I'd like to call Claire for the next question.
Hoboken continues to face challenges with affordable housing. While new developments keep rising, many longtime residents and even some of our teachers are being priced out, moving to nearby cities like Jersey City or Union City. This cycle of families leaving and new ones arriving creates instability in our community. If elected mayor, how will you work to keep housing and rent more affordable so that Hoboken remains where families and educators can stay and thrive?
Okay, we'll begin these questions with Ms. Waiters, followed by Councilwoman Jabbour, then Councilwoman Fisher, next Ms. Ajmani, then Councilman Russo, and conclude with Councilman Ramos.
Great question. And thanks to all of the students. My heart go out to you guys. When I first started my political career, I was like 37. My heart go out to you with the way the world is today. So we're not personally attacking you. It took courage, and I want to thank you guys for that. I'm watching the look on your face when you saying time's up, and they keep over talking. I'll try not to do that. I'll be respectful. With that being said, first of all, the gentrification that I've been witnessing, I've been going to the council meetings for the last 27 or more years, is disgusting. Everybody's screaming affordable housing, even people that own their condos or their homes. We are a key away from getting locked out. We have a big court hearing coming up October 23rd. I wish I see all of these faces I see tonight here. We all got to come out with respect to affordable housing. Everywhere, especially in Hoboken, the pricing for a one-bedroom is running you $2,000 to $3,000. I am going to work on affordable housing as soon as possible and adhere to the process. Stop playing politics with the process to get affordable housing and tampering with the waiting lists. Thank you.
So affordability is certainly an issue that's top of mind for a lot of families, especially when you have two kids who are starting to get older and you're in a two-bedroom apartment in the city. Rent control is one of the first policies that I started to really dig my teeth into and understand better for the sake of using that as a tool to help ensure affordability in the city and allow for our families to be here long-term, in some cases generations. We also need to look at maximizing the use of city spaces in order to accomplish our goal of more affordable housing. So for example, the Garage B project, which I'm a sponsor of, would look at redeveloping our municipal garage to bring that back to usable order for the next 40 to 50 years, but then to also put residential housing above it that would be not just affordable with our affordable housing set aside, but also workforce, so that the teachers who work in this community can also live in this community. That's true for public safety staff as well. We also need to hold corporate landlords responsible for those people who are living in buildings that are newer and are not necessarily protected by rent control and are facing exorbitant rent increases. Coming out of COVID, there were a number of families who were facing 25, 35, 40% rent increases because of privately owned buildings. Preventing the use of algorithmic software that was basically creating price collusion was an extremely important action that I helped support on the City Council that I'll continue to support as mayor. And finally, we need to work with our developers in terms of those new private buildings to ensure that we're thinking about families that can stay longer term by developing in a way that ensures that there's multiple types of footprints, from studios to larger units. Thank you.
So affordability has been an issue since I've been on the City Council, but it is a much bigger issue now. Every single room we're in, doesn't matter the income level of the people in the room, Hoboken is increasingly unaffordable. You know, we are kind of the main things that we have to do as a government when you have the kind of market pressures that we have, you know, we're a victim of our own success, right? We have a city that is probably one of the most desirable in the state of New Jersey now, and with the increasing demand for, you know, to live here, it just pushes prices up, and that's exactly when the government has to use all of its tools available to them to support and ensure we have affordable housing in Hoboken. We definitely need to enforce our rent control laws. You know, we've been trying to put money into that office for the last 8 years, and it was only recently that they've expanded that office. We need to expand it more so we can more actively enforce it. We need to keep our property taxes stable. Property taxes, whether you're a homeowner or a renter, they ripple through the cost of housing. We need to deliver accessible services to some of our lower income or income-based services. So we have affordable parking in our community, we have affordable recreation in our community, and we need to build housing that fits our needs. So we need to push for more workforce housing, planning appropriately. I don't support Garage B, but not because I don't support that housing, but I think we need a more strategic plan to do it. We need to basically be more strategic about our planning for housing.
Affordable housing, building affordable housing is very different than keeping Hoboken affordable for those who live here today. Let's talk about those who live here today. Property taxes are going up. That makes the city feel more unaffordable. Rents are going higher. Property taxes are going up because our council spends. It gives tax breaks to developers. It gives generous contracts to vendors. It borrows, which adds to our interest. First thing I will do as mayor is to really take a Sharpie to this spending and cut a bunch of them. When it comes to rent, the problem with the rent is that all the leverage lies with the corporate landlords. There's a building not too far from here called Jordan Apartments. Their renters got an email saying your rent's going up to 20% in some units. What leverage do they have? So I have decided that as mayor, I will not take a salary and use that salary to hire an in-house attorney whose job will be just to help renters. Talking about affordable housing and building affordable housing. Once again, where will the money come from? If we say that the workforce who builds that housing needs to be union, and then the rent has to be capped, that means the developer is going to ask for tax breaks. Numbers won't work otherwise. When you give tax breaks to a developer, that means the rest of us have to pay higher taxes.
Housing in Hoboken is twofold, and keeping it affordable is twofold. One is a tax issue. We need to keep our taxes low in the city of Hoboken for those that choose to buy their home. Those that choose to rent, like I do, I live with the same fears that every renter in the city of Hoboken does day in and day out. What's going to happen next? How do we, as a community, make sure we house across the socioeconomic scale in the city of Hoboken? We need to do that from the lowest scale with our housing authority, making sure that we're rebuilding the housing authority so that our residents there live in dignity and live with respect in a home that they could be proud of. We do that with workforce housing in the city of Hoboken. Garage B has been mentioned a number of times. We need to continue to utilize our city-owned assets to do more projects like that. In decades, we finally approved our senior housing project at 11th Willow. We need to house across the socioeconomic scale. Everywhere, every place we possibly can. Veteran housing, senior housing, making sure that we protect our tenants, making sure that we protect our residents, whether they choose to rent or whether they choose to buy.
The redevelopment of Hoboken Housing Authority is paramount to everything regarding affordable housing. We have current residents that are living in unsanitary conditions. We don't want any Hoboken resident going through that. That's the first thing. So to help that along, the City of Hoboken owns property on 2nd and Harrison Street, and we have a number of senior citizens living in family-style units within the Hoboken Housing Authority property. We need to develop the PSE&G site to be senior housing, so we can move those seniors to the PSE&G site, and that opens up new family-style units for those residents within the Hoboken Housing Authority new redevelopment plan. I think we want our workforce housing. We spoke about Garage B a little bit tonight, and nothing excited me more when I was in like 2nd grade and going to Food Town, seeing my 2nd grade teacher, Miss Grotto, in ShopRite. It really humanized her for me, that she wasn't just my teacher, she had a family, she lived in Hoboken, she walked in Hoboken. I think we want to try and create that feel again in Hoboken with the Garage B project and workforce housing throughout the city in general. We could also incorporate that within the Hoboken Housing Authority redevelopment plan. But I think that's really important, because that's, it's kind of corny, but it's almost like we want to recreate Sesame Street, where we want to know the people that we meet when we're walking down the street. Right? And we want to see those familiar faces that I saw when I was younger. I knew who the police officers was walking down my street. I knew who the firefighter was walking down my street. I knew the DPW guy who was cleaning my street. So those are the things we need to bring back to Hoboken. That's real community, that's real Hoboken. Thank you.
Ms. Waiters, rebuttal.
I must respectfully rebuttal. They are building housing. The last 10 to 15 years in Hoboken, if you go down every street corner, every block, you see a new building. But it's not affordable. And it's disingenuous for my opponents to sit here and they own their home. I'm talking about the millions of renters that lost their home because they could not afford to live here. I moved in Church Towers a year and a half ago. And like I tell all of you that I stop in the street, apply, because I'm going to see who put their money where their mouth is. Thank you.
Councilman Fisher?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, all of our large-scale buildings have at least 10% affordable housing in it. We have a pipeline of about 20 buildings totaling 6,000 residential units that are going to come online in the next 7 or 8 years. It's about 12,000 people, and of those, about 750 of them are affordable housing. And they range from studios up to 3 bedrooms. So we are building affordable housing, and we will see a lot more affordable housing being built over the next 6 or 7 years.
Anybody?
As long as we're going to add on, I guess. Just to add to that, I would say one of the things that I didn't highlight that I would like to see move forward as mayor is to actually increase the affordable housing set aside from 10% to 15%, which would be commensurate with New York City's policy to help ensure that there's more affordable housing in the community as well.
I just want to add one thing. We spoke about, you heard people talk about rent control and rent control enforcement. In this year's budget that was passed, which I didn't support, it removed the person that would help enforce the rent control laws. They didn't hire a person, so they removed that person from the budget as well. So let's talk about putting your money where our mouth is and our priorities are. That's one example of not putting where our priorities are within our budget.
Yes.
Also, just going to add something here. We talk about the obsolescence of these buildings, especially with our housing authority. A lot of times what goes unsaid is there's a lot of other buildings in the city that are reaching that same obsolescence. We have Marine View Plaza, we have Church Towers, we have some of the applied buildings that need to be refurbished. Those are all potential properties that need to be changed, rebuilt, or refurbished. We don't always have to build brand new units. We could still accomplish the goal of affordable housing in the city of Hoboken without adding more units in the city.
Anybody else have a rebuttal?
I have nothing to say.
Okay, thank you. Not hearing any, I'll call Kevin for the next question.
Hoboken is growing rapidly, with new residential buildings, more families moving in, and increasing demands on city resources. If elected mayor, how will you ensure that this development is managed responsibly, so that our infrastructure, including schools, roads, and public services, can keep pace, while also preserving the unique character and strong sense of community that make Hoboken so special?
Okay, so we'll start with Councilwoman Jabbour, then Councilwoman Fisher, then Ms. Ajmani, then followed by Councilman Russo, then Councilman Ramos, and we will conclude with Ms. Waiters.
That's not a small question. And I'm sure that's top of mind for a number of people who are in this room, given the sponsorship of this event. Certainly, Hoboken continues to be a desirable place to live. That is a great thing. We want to attract more families here, but that creates a lot of pressures on our system. To speak specifically to what that does with respect to infrastructure in our schools, obviously we're seeing that and living that. I know that 2 out of our 3 elementary schools are completely full, and our middle school is not far behind. We need to build more school facilities, and that's not just true for this district, it's also true for other schools in our community because of the success of attracting and keeping families here. It also means pressure on our system when it comes to building and all the things we just spoke about with respect to affordable housing. That creates pressure on the infrastructure around us and what's going on underneath us. These are all really complicated, big issues, and obviously some of the pressures that we're feeling with respect to traffic are because we're actually fixing that infrastructure as we speak. What's going on uptown on 15th Street is the replacement of our sewer systems because of the need for increased capacity. In order to manage these things, we need to get really in the weeds with operational challenges. We need to look at how we're managing that across all of the stakeholders, and right now there has not been good communication across the multiple parties involved, and there hasn't been good communication with all of you as residents. The city needs leadership to actually get involved in terms of disseminating that information to make you more aware of what's happening around us, whether that's Rebuild by Design, the NHSA, or assisting our schools in communicating their needs for infrastructure.
So behind safety, which is always the #1 priority, this is probably the single biggest issue that our city is going to be facing, and this is why we need a very strong leader that knows how to manage it. We've already grown 20%, as I mentioned before. We didn't do anything to support that. We weren't ahead of it with schools. We weren't ahead of it with transportation. We weren't ahead of it with recreation. We were behind on all of those, and we're still behind, and we're about to have 20% more. I tell everyone in every room, whatever line you're in right now, whatever you're waiting for is going to be 20% longer. Whether you're trying to get out of the city, you're trying to get in the city, whether you have a child that is trying to get on the rec basketball program that's already full, it's going to be 20% longer wait list, unless we take a step back, sit, and realize this is happening and talk about what we need to put in place to address that. We need a totally new hop system that allows people to get around Hoboken without relying on a car. We can't have 20% more cars come into Hoboken. I'm a parking and car advocate, but we can't afford to have 20% more cars, so we have to come up with alternatives. We're gonna have 1,500 more kids. We have to find space for our schools, and we need to do that now. So we need someone who thinks about that strategically, and I can tell you, as Dr. Johnson knows, I've been thinking about enrollment of our schools for the last 10 years. I've been thinking about education and transportation, and this is something I will continue to do as mayor.
All that planning is council's responsibility. If it didn't happen, that's because the council failed us in planning for all the things that we need to support a 20% increase in our population. I'm against unfettered development. I am against it. This is an ancient city. It was built for horse carts. It was built for a much smaller population. We have cast iron pipes, we have clay pipes. Our infrastructure just cannot handle unfettered increase in our population. What it really bothers me is why this development gets approved. It gets approved because our budget is stressed. So the council thinks that, hey, if we just bring in more people who can pay property taxes, then maybe we can solve this problem. Well, it hasn't worked. In the last 8 years, our population has gone from 50 to 65, and our tax rate has gone from 1.4% to 1.8%. It doesn't work because the new residents are going to need the services as well, and those cost money. So why is it that we are so hell-bent on building these 1,300 unit buildings when what we should be doing is to preserve our village-like city and make sure our infrastructure can handle the population that exists here today?
When people start this conversation with development, I always ask the question, well, what do you mean by development? Because development is building a school. Development is building that pool. Development is building the recreation center. Development is making sure that the road infrastructure and everything underneath it is completed. That's all part of development. When we have developers come into the city of Hoboken, we must require at a baseline that they participate in making sure all of those things happen. We also need to demand our place, not only at the state level, but at the county level. My 20-plus years of experience, I have those relationships. We have never, in the last 15 years, utilized our power at the North Hudson Sewage Authority. We have 3 commissioners on that board. You need 7 commissioners to pass anything. We, as a city of Hoboken, got stuck paying for a lot of things rather than having the entire North Hudson Sewage Authority pay for those things to help to eliminate some of our infrastructure challenges. Those are the types of things that I will insist on when I become mayor in the city of Hoboken.
The last state funding for school development the city of Hoboken received was when I was in the state legislature in 2009 and fought and advocated for $30 million that the Hoboken Public School District still has and is able to spend to try and meet some of their facility needs within the city of Hoboken. Infrastructure has been an important part for me since I was first elected in 1999, and not just 1999, but when I was a kid growing up in Hoboken. Someone that lived in West Hoboken my entire life, every time it rained, it flooded in West Hoboken. That's why in 2001, I partnered with the North Hudson Sewage Authority with Mayor Roberts and helped create and design the flood pump system within the city of Hoboken. So now flooding, when it rains in the city of Hoboken, while it still gets floods for like an hour or two, but the water's gone. We've done a lot better in that aspect with it. And you see all the infrastructure improvements right now taking place on Madison Street, on 15th Street, are all part of that 2001 design that we worked on way back when. So we have been working on this issue for a number of years. We restructured our water utility within the city of Hoboken, created a water utility authority. We can invest $3 to $5 million a year with that as well. And one example of having development pay for various infrastructure improvements, 38 Jackson Street, a recent development going part in Western Hoboken, which is going to have a grocery store. We work with Dr. Johnson Board of Education and those developers to put a 3 or 4-year-old school program in there potentially, a restaurant, but we also have helped have them pay for our new Southwest Park. To put $800,000 within that facility as well, but also host 250,000 gallons of water underneath that. Thank you.
Again, go ahead. Again, don't hold your breath. Remember, in another month, the election is gone and is done. I heard these same words 4 mayors ago, okay? And with respect to the sewage authority, those people that sits on the sewage authority is a politically appointed position by the council people. So remember that. So when you put somebody and politically appoint them, they can't be a voice for the people. They got to make sure they have the vote and make sure they take care of that one little special interest clique. My poor family, my son being one, need a boat to get out of housing authority when it rains. The infrastructure is crumbling, and y'all just didn't learn the infrastructure crumbling. What about the upkeep? You could have kept it up to par, and it wouldn't be as bad. You keep talking about how we got there. I want to hear solutions. Thank you.
Okay, for our next question, I'd like to call Eva.
Many of us have friends who live in the Hoboken Housing Authority. In your current role as councilperson or candidate, what have you done to enhance opportunities and improve living conditions for children and young adults in those communities? And if elected mayor, what specific commitments will you make to support our classmates who live in the Hoboken Housing Authority? And how will you turn those commitments into reality?
Just repeat the very last sentence. I didn't make commitments. I didn't hear that.
If elected mayor, what specific commitments will you make to support our classmates who live in the Hoboken Housing Authority? And how will you turn those commitments into reality?
Okay, so we will start with Councilwoman Fisher, then Ms. Ajmani, then Councilman Ramos. I'm sorry, Councilman Russo, then Councilman Ramos, then Ms. Waiters, and we'll end with Councilwoman Jabbour.
So I think the single most important project in Hoboken is the redevelopment of the Hoboken Housing Authority and allowing everyone who lives there now to move from their current, very, very old housing into more modern housing. You know, I just generally believe that we all share the same backyard. That's what makes Hoboken so special. And the fact that we have such extremes in wealth and living conditions in the same town, I think it should be all of our number one priority to get that done. What I've done to kind of support that is the team that's focused on that project, there's an LLC, and I've worked really hard to make sure that we have a couple people on the Housing Authority board and on that board that bring directly relevant experience to be able to move that project forward as quickly as possible. I've always supported, I've been on our CDBG funding committee for most of the years I was on the council, where we wanted to make sure that we allocated almost all of our funding to the Housing Authority as we watched the funding at the federal level shrink. I've made sure that we had, in the face of challenges from our public safety who didn't want to put safety resources there, I've made sure that we put safety resources there. To me, it's part of some of the best part of our community is our neighbors there, and I'm committed to doing, you know, just broadly everything we can to support that community going forward.
I live in that neighborhood. I live on 7th and Jackson. In fact, in the mornings, I go jogging in Mama Johnson Field, so I'm very familiar with that area. It definitely feels like a neglected part of Hoboken. The trash doesn't get picked up. The bike rack is usually, the city share bike rack is usually empty. So first thing I would do is treat everyone who lives in Hoboken with the same respect and dignity and provide equal level of services. I think that is very important to do. In terms of housing authority, what I really believe in, and I think studies have shown this, that children really benefit from living in mixed income housing. And therefore, I'm a big believer in the set aside for affordable housing in large development. The building I live in, there are 44 units that are available to those who make less than 80% of average medium income. And as somebody who benefited from such a set aside myself in my childhood, I can see what benefit it brings to have everyone live in the same place, have access to the same amenities. So that's my promise to you, that when I'm mayor, that I'll make sure that everybody is treated with the same respect, dignity, and has access to similar amenities. Thank you.
I have a very unique perspective on this. Not only have I been a councilman for 20 plus years, I've also had the privilege of serving on the Hoboken Housing Authority for almost 10 years. Within that time, I was very instrumental in starting the conversation about repositioning our housing authority. That stalled over some time, and then it was reignited later on. Now we're at the point where, as I got to serve on the Housing Authority for my second term, I was involved in that every step of the way. I was very proud to be one of the votes that was able to be cast not only from the council's perspective, but from the housing authority's perspective. Number one, we talked about repositioning the entire housing authority, refurbishing at least every unit in our senior buildings, and rebuilding every unit in our housing buildings. That needs to increase. Let's call it what it is. We have 1,400 units across the housing authority. We need more than that. We have 6,000 people apply every time we open up our wait lists. We need more housing across the socioeconomic scale. I'll say it time and time again. As a commissioner, I was able to increase programming. I was able to vote for different programming at the Housing Authority. I was also able to vote for the funding for that programming as a councilman. This is very near and dear to my heart. I spend time in the Housing Authority. I grew up in the Housing Authority, and I will continue to be in the Housing Authority every single day I possibly can.
I think I mentioned in one of my answers earlier with the affordable housing that nothing is more paramount to the city of Hoboken than the rehabilitation of the Hoboken Housing Authority. I think this question is extremely appropriate, and it's first and foremost with a lot of council members right now. But I think going back 10 years ago, we also had a plan called Vision 2020. And unfortunately, that plan failed because of politics. because the current mayor at that time didn't get along with the executive director at that time. So that's when politics gets away of good policy for individuals. So unfortunately, we had to go back and revisit that plan. So hopefully a little more robust plan with our current Housing Authority development plan that can hopefully get approved in the very near future. Or it is approved currently, but hopefully get the financing in the very near future. But in the interim, while we did that, we've been very involved with community development block grants with the city of Hoboken. So every building in the Housing Authority was able to receive a new roof. Every building in the Housing Authority has a new boiler room system. Every building has new doors outside. A number of senior handicap accessible bathrooms were created with CDBG grant funding. Security cameras. There are 75 security cameras within the Housing Authority funded by CDBG grant funding. Resurfacing of parking lots was redone with CDBG grant funding. And me personally, I sponsor multiple bus trips for Housing Authority residents throughout the summer. I sponsor Community Lifestyle, which is a program that helps Hoboken Housing Authority with free summer programming. I help sponsor them and their bus trips as well when they have programs throughout the summer. So the Housing Authority is something that I've been advocating for my entire life, and will continue advocating until shovels on the ground to make that rehabilitation project a reality.
Shout out to my sister. I am going to take a deep breath just for you. Housing Authority is a no-brainer for me. I hold this near and dear to my heart. Those people that live in the Housing Authority have been unforgotten, ignored, and disrespected. Every election cycle, they down in the projects playing politics. Mike said it and Ruben said it. I was almost hoping they admit the truth. Housing Authority would have been completely different. I probably would have been the one that could save a lot of lives. They will not appoint me to the authority. And they the appointing officers. The mayor and the city council appoints a commissioner to the Housing Authority board. They would not. But guess what I did? 27 years, I'm at every meeting, I'm in court with them, I advocate for them, I make sure they have the proper resources. I put on my sneakers and my sweatsuit and go with them and clean their apartments. That's me. And thanks to people like the city council that do not put me on no boards or try to involve me in my community. And I told you before, they don't validate who Pat Waiters is. I'm going to continue doing what I do, and we're going to hope and pray and keep the faith that Housing Authority will prevail. Thank you.
So without repeating some of the things that have already been said, I would underscore my support as well for the redevelopment of the Hoboken Housing Authority. One of the most important things that I have heard by taking part in the regular community meetings that informed how that project moved forward and how it continues to move forward is that people are very worried about being displaced as a result of that project. And I'm very proud that the Housing Authority staff have continually made that commitment that no one will be displaced as the process moves forward for rebuilding that campus. I'm also excited to see that campus integrated into the community in a way that doesn't make people feel separate. I think one of the really challenging things is the physical layout of that campus, and I'm excited that the future vision for that project is going to change the way that that neighborhood looks in the larger footprint of our community. For me, as a social worker, one of the things that I think about most often is how all of the different services are showing up for that community. My commitment is to ensure that the city social work staff would be on site regularly at the Housing Authority to provide connections and resources to the many different programs that are available, and to coordinate that for families, because it's really hard to navigate those systems at times, whether it's applying for food insecurity assistance, additional housing needs. Having that perspective is a really key part of how we can show up better for those families. Additionally, I'm really happy that the school district has continually made a commitment to addressing food insecurity for all of those students. I know there's the recent backpack program. Councilman Fisher and I actually are regular volunteers with the food pantry, and so we see that and we know these families. The district has made that commitment through that program, and I think that's been a great addition as well.
Okay, the first one for rebuttal, Ms. Ajmani had her hand up first.
Thank you. Community Lifestyle was mentioned a couple of times. Community Lifestyle is an after-school program that's free for kids who are in Housing Authority. Guess what? They've lost their funding. They've lost their funding from federal grant because our politicians decided that grandstanding was more important and announcing and proclaiming that our city is a welcoming sanctuary city when it is not even necessary because New Jersey as a state is a sanctuary state. What it did was it put target on our backs and our target on the back of community lifestyle.
Ms. Waiters?
While Ms. Jabbour is viewing cameras of escapes, we have cameras and we burying our kids. Kids are still dying. And she talking about a rescue and gun. I joined Mom Demands Action in Newark. But that's not the reason to not stay involved. I have not seen her down there since. There's bigger issues. I want to see action taken and respect the people in the house. And it's a disrespect to go down there and talk about all of these cameras and CDBG grant it is, Mike. And it should go in the inside of their units, not on the outside or in nobody's pocket.
Councilman Ramos?
Yeah, I just want to respond to Ms. Ajmani when she spoke about 77 Jackson Street and it being mixed use and having 40-plus affordable housing units. We also heard Ms. Ajmani many times again decry the use of pilot payments. The reason that that's possible was because of pilot payments. The reason that we have a park across the street was because of a pilot payment. The reason we have a flood infrastructure system within that park was because of pilot payments. The reason we have an indoor basketball court was because of pilot payments. So pilot payments are not necessary everywhere, but they're necessary somewhere, especially to create affordable housing and mixed-use development. Thank you, Cameron. Sorry about that.
Ms. Ajmani, you can only have one rebuttal. Councilwoman Fisher?
Yep. So when I first came on the city council, one of the first things before us was the 770 house pilot, and Jen Giattino and I voted no on it. And we voted no because there was never any actual robust financial analysis behind the development that they're talking about. And that just, we haven't had that in the city. And I have 23 years experience in commercial real estate, and part of the reason why I put my hand up was because I always felt like we were being taken advantage of by developers. We have a great project there, don't get me wrong, but it could have been better and we didn't have to have a pilot.
Okay, not hearing any more rebuttal requests. The next question will be read by Maya.
Stepping into any new leadership role requires a clear and thoughtful entry plan. If elected mayor, what will your first 90 days look like? Which relationships will you focus on building or strengthening? What citywide challenges will you prioritize? And what 3 specific goals do you hope to accomplish as you begin your term?
All right, this time let's start with Ms. Ajmani, followed by Councilman Russo, followed by Councilman Ramos. Then next we'll have Ms. Waiters, followed by Councilwoman Jabbour, and we will conclude with Councilwoman Fisher.
I think about this all the time. I think about what I will do on day 1, day 2, day 3. First thing we have to do is to bring our finances in order. Because if our money is not there, if our finances are broken, all the things we want to do in this city will not get done. We all know this. Answer to every question is money. So we have to make sure that we have money. This money can come from county, it can come from state, it can come from federal government. It can come from not giving tax breaks to developers. The pilot program that Councilman Ruben just talked about. Our schools are missing out on $9 million every year in funding that would have come to us if the pilot programs did not exist. I agree with Councilwoman Fisher that many a times it's the developer who comes with the financial analysis that we have absolutely no ability to review, and therefore we approve these pilot programs based on some made-up finances. You don't need to have a pilot in place to have 40 units of affordable housing. That is the state law. The developer has to provide it. Looks like my time is up, but 90 days, I'll have lots of good ideas.
The first relationship has to be with the city council as a whole. As a mayor, you need to have a working relationship with your entire council. If you have good and bold ideas, you need somebody to implement them at the legislative level. So that's the first relationship that we work on. From there, we work with the county, we work with the state, and we work with the federal government to make sure that that funding continues to come into the city as needed. We'll also restructure the government. It's a top-heavy government right now. We have multiple directors that have assistant directors, and those assistants have assistants. We need to really look at that from a holistic standpoint to make sure that we're saving as much money as possible so that we could do the things that we need to do, not do the things that we want to do. Next is safety. We need to enforce our laws across the board. The directive goes in on day one to the police department that these are the priorities for the city of Hoboken. This is how we keep our citizenry safe. Then we start to work on housing. The housing will not happen overnight, but those plans need to be started. We need to make sure that those plans are in place so that we get that done in a timely manner. And then finally, recreation. Make sure we have the funding sources in place so that we can build the recreational facilities that we need, make sure we can build the pool that we want, and make sure that our kids have places to go, not just at the youngest of ages, but all their childhood, young adults.
One issue that's come up nonstop is public safety. So that's day one. We'll sit down with the police chief, our new public safety director, and make sure that public safety is a priority and that we're enforcing all of our laws. Our second thing is to repurpose our current employees to create a quality of life division. So the police department isn't taking care of the smaller issues. They could address the bigger issues taking place in our city. So they have those individuals giving out. We haven't seen a dog poop ticket issued in a number of years. And the enforcement for a dog poop issue is for 30 days, your picture's supposed to go up in the lobby of City Hall. That's never happened in City of Hoboken's history. We're gonna make sure that that happens, like little things like that with our quality of life division. Thirdly, we've spoken quite often about our summer recreation program in the City of Hoboken. So what we want to do there is coordinate with Dr. Johnson, the public schools, and our resources that we did last winter. We had a nice conversation about that, but unfortunately it wasn't a reality because it wasn't a priority for the current administration. We want to make sure the summer recreation project for 2026 is on board for all of our kids. It's affordable for all of our families, keep them busy in our summer. Thirdly, bringing all of our stakeholders together, from the state, county, local officials, to make sure we're all speaking from the same hymn. We all have our same priorities. What's Hoboken's priority? Meeting with our schools, all of our schools in the City of Hoboken, public, private, charter, to make sure that we all have a vision of what's needed on their part and how we could partner with them to make sure that their school's even better. Because you're a kid in Hoboken, I got your back. If you're a teacher in Hoboken, I got your back. Thirdly, I want to coordinate all of our infrastructure projects at the same time. Making sure that what's happening on Southern Hoboken, if construction's happening there, nothing's happening in Northern Hoboken. Thank you, Cameron. I'm sorry, Cameron. But I can't help myself. I got excited, bro.
We all get emotional, but we on a time frame here. First thing I'm asking for, audit. I'm going to follow the money. There's nobody in this world should be making $200,000, $300,000, and we in a recession. I'm looking at the money because that would impact your taxes, because they get afraid when they paying all the big administrators your tax dollars, and they go anywhere to grab money to put in the budget. I never forget, immediately after the election, we went from a $15 parking fee to $50. You know why? You got to pay off the developers. You got to pay to play. The people that gave you your campaign contributions. Those are the only applause I'm hearing out here. People hoping that check will come due November 5th. But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to nip it in the bud and take the dirty politics out of my office. Thank you.
So our number one goal is to address public safety. That's, I think, our number one priority on the City Council. That would be my number one priority as mayor. The first thing we would do is establish a community policing bureau to put more officers out by hiring at least an additional 10, which we had increased the table to provide, but haven't actually hired through to get them on our streets yet. And to also address our public safety needs in terms of their facilities by establishing a public safety complex. Currently, the police department is actually in an old medical offices building, and I worry every night about the status of what's going on in the basement of that building because the technology isn't necessarily keeping up with the need. Secondly, I would establish an Office of Public Counsel. Our tenant advocate does great work. It's a unique service that's available to Hoboken renters, but unfortunately, they have not been super responsive because there has been so many demands on that office. We need to bring that in-house and have an Office of Public Counsel who can also provide representation in cases of eviction. Third, we would need to launch a Hoboken app. If people can tag me on Facebook, we can certainly tag City Hall on Facebook. And we need to make it more possible for people to actually reach out directly to City Hall to address any of the current concerns you see on a regular basis. And finally, I would ensure that each city department has a dashboard of their key goals. It's not just wondering about where your tax dollars are going, it's seeing what's accomplished with that. And that's part of the communications challenge, to feel the value of where your tax dollars are being used. We need to be front and center about what are the key metrics that we are measuring and that I would measure as your mayor.
Time.
Thank you.
What'd you say? Okay. So in the first 90 days, other than immediately having our police department convert into a community policing effort, nothing else really is that sexy. Right now we have, our operations are broken, our finances are broken, and we have to deliver a responsible budget by the end of March, early April, and we can't have a responsible budget when we have broken operations. So we have to reset the operations of the city, we have to do a deep dive into the finances, and we have to put together a responsible budget over a reset operations. What does that mean by resetting operations? We're going to be a construction zone for a decade. We don't have one person in City Hall that has infrastructure experience that is managing all of our giant projects, and we need to have that person. Right now we have well-intended planners and police officers or people with public safety background running these large projects, and we actually need someone to sit on top, be held accountable, and schedule all of these things to minimize the disruption to our community. Top 3 things I want to achieve when I'm mayor is community policing right away. I want to hire someone to run the operations to manage our quality of life, and everything recreation. We need an advisory committee to run our programs and decide what programs we're going to use, and we need a new rec center. And relationships are city council. Board of Education is probably the first one, sitting down with Dr. Johnson, and then sitting down with the regional mayors and head of the county executive to talk about homelessness and solving that issue.
Any rebuttal? Okay, not hearing any. I would like to call Claire for the closing remarks by each candidate. You will have a 90-minute closing remark. 90 minutes. Sorry, 90. I said the same thing. Dr. Johnson's got it in my head, 90 minutes. I would stay here for another 90 minutes. 90-second closing remark. There will be no rebuttal to a candidate's closing remark, okay? So, Claire?
Thank you, candidates, for your thoughtful remarks this evening. We'll conclude this portion of the forum with one final question. If elected mayor of Hoboken, in what specific ways will you support the Hoboken Public School District as it continues to grow and meet the diverse needs of our 3,848 students?
Okay, let's conclude the forum with Councilman Russo, then Councilman Ramos, then Ms. Waiters, followed by Councilwoman Jabbour, then Councilwoman Fisher, and finally Ms. Ajmani.
Our public schools are the bedrock of our city's future, not just another issue on a campaign trail. I take this one personally. When I'm elected mayor, my approach will be simple. Support our public schools with action, not lip service. First, I'll build a real partnership between City Hall and the Hoboken Public School District. Too often, the city and the district operate in silos. I'll insist my administration works with the board, our superintendent, our teachers, our parents, to keep the lines of communication open so that city resources directly support classroom needs. That means access to city facilities for after-school programs, tutoring, and youth initiatives that keep kids safe and engaged. Second, we have to invest in our school facilities. Hoboken students cannot thrive without the state-of-the-art classrooms and modern technology. I will dedicate funds to ensure new developments contribute directly to creating the best schools in New Jersey. It also means ensuring a strong partnership with Stevens, a world-class university. Third, I'll work to close equity gaps and expand opportunity. Imagine our high school students completing college credits to get a jump on their higher education, while their parents don't suffer the burden. That's what the partnership with Stevens can provide. Also, imagine partnering with local businesses and labor unions to offer internships, and real-world learning experiences.
Thank you for having us this evening. Like I said earlier, I'm a public school teacher. My 29th year in the Patterson public school system. I started my first year here in Hoboken High School, actually, as a permanent sub before I was shipped out to Patterson, New Jersey. But I love teaching. Not only that, I am also a parent of a special needs student. My youngest has autism. So I understand the needs of not just my students in Patterson, who come from a much poorer background than the city of Hoboken is. I understand the needs of ESL learners. I understand the needs of special education students. I understand the needs of what a regular classroom manager needs to utilize. So that's one perspective. I deal with it every single day. When I walk through my school, I go through a metal detector every single day. I take part in all the safety drills that our public school students take place in every single day. It's part of me, it's embedded in me, but the relationship between our city and our public schools and all of our school districts needs to be enhanced much more. Like I said earlier, I advocated for that $30 million in funding. I want to continue to advocate and be a champion for our public schools and all our kids throughout the city of Hoboken. We have to find that extra space because a lot of our buildings are antiquated. We have to work with what we own currently. We own a property off of Northwest Resiliency Park. That area there is ripe for a public school to be right on the face of a brand new park to utilize that facility. That's first and foremost to make sure that happens when I'm mayor. Thank you.
First of all, thanks all give Ruben his round of applause. Thank all of the school students for doing this tonight. It took courage. I hold this one near and dear to my heart. I'm going to ask that all the Hoboken Board of Education teachers and employees collaborate and work with me. I haven't had a good experience in the past 9 years of sitting back, watching and waiting to see better things for our children that don't have the right resources. And by the fifth grade, I've seen a lot of you take your kids out of the district and put them in private schools and schools that you could pay for. It's not fair. We depend on a public school district. We are by law entitled to a free public school, duty-free education. We got a bill on the table right now in the assembly. I need you to call your assemblymen and tell them to stop segregating the schools. We got a segregation bill, a desegregation bill as I speak tonight. And I'm going to see how many of you will work with me. And this is for the people that don't reside here but teach here. What about the ones that reside here, teach here, and pay taxes here? We still want to be respected. I miss getting up seeing my teacher in the grocery store. We don't have that anymore. So you don't care about our other issues in this city that don't reside here. Still respect us, and I'm willing to work with everybody, each and every one of you. I need more collaboration, though, and stop overlooking me because I'm not going anywhere. Thank you.
So for 8 years, I've had the honor and the privilege of serving this community through the City Council, and I'm very excited to operationalize everything that I have learned into the next job as mayor. My first feeling about how to best serve our students in this district is to ensure that this is a safe community. I think about that every day for my 13-year-old when she's coming home from Hoboken Middle School. We need to be a safe city. That means prioritizing investments in our public safety divisions and making sure they have the resources and tools they need to do that. Secondly, Hoboken needs to be accessible to all of your families. We've talked a lot about affordable housing, so I won't revisit that, but it also means advocating for the facilities that your schools need. When the referendum was proposed 4 years ago, I vocally supported it. I did that because that is what the superintendent and the Board of Education asked of me as a community leader. There were flaws in the way that it was rolled out, but sometimes we cannot let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and the very real need that was underlying that conversation. As mayor, I want to be your advocate at City Hall, to have that conversation with the entire community. One of the biggest challenges in that conversation 4 years ago was how that conversation happened and what the focus of that discussion was. Because it wasn't just about a new high school, it was about a strategic plan for this district. I want to be your advocate at City Hall, and I'm committed to working with all of you to make that possible for our future, because that's what our district demands of us. Thank you.
So the three categories where the city council and the mayor, city hall overlaps with the Board of Education, where they partner, are on safety, land use, and recreation. So safety is just paramount, and as a city, not me specifically, but I would continue to work with all of our schools to expand the SROs at all of our schools, not just the district schools or charter schools and all of the private schools, because the safety of the kids in our community is the most important issue, or most important thing for a mayor. Second, and really probably the biggest challenge right now is land use. 10 years ago, in my first year at the City Council, I learned from a city director who said his number one issue, his area of concern, was that he had 20 kids on a basketball team, and only 5 can play at a time. And it was lack of field space and a doubling of 7- and 8-year-olds. That led to my very first conversation with Dr. Johnson about the enrollment crisis in our city. That was 10 years ago, and I haven't stopped talking to her about it. As a council person, I've done everything I could to introduce, opportunities to support moving pre-K into, out of the schools to free up classroom space. But I will, be a strong partner to the school district to find a way to deliver a new school. Because of my background, I will tell you, the biggest chance you have of having a new school is with me. And lastly is recreation, which I already addressed earlier.
I may disagree with Councilman Fisher. I think the biggest chance you have to have a new school is with me. And that's because for 4 years I worked in Trenton, right next to the governor's office. There are agencies that exist for the purpose of building schools. One of them is called School Development Authority. It has built 850 schools in New Jersey, spent $2 billion doing it. We should have that agency build schools for us here. In fact, in their 2024 plan, they mention how Hoboken needs a new elementary school and how our middle school needs repairs. Let's bring our own tax dollars. This is our own tax dollars that are going to Trenton. Let's bring those back here and have those dollars build the school for us instead of adding to the taxes of Hobokenites. One more thing I would like to do for the student community. I came late to public service. I was introduced to it by Senator Booker, who then introduced me to the governor and then to the president. I have loved it. I wish I was younger when somebody told me about it. So one thing I would definitely do if I'm mayor is to have after-school internship and summer internship for high schoolers to come to the city hall and see how the government works. How much impact you can have at those levels instead of a private sector job is something that our students must know. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. On behalf of the Hoboken Public School District, I want to thank our mayoral candidates for joining us tonight and for engaging in such a thoughtful and respectful exchange of ideas. Your presence here has given our students and our school community an invaluable opportunity to see democracy in action. I'd also like to thank Dr. Johnson, our Board of Education, our district unions and staff for their support and partnership in making this evening possible. And most especially, our middle school and high school student governments for their leadership, preparation, and professionalism. You have reminded all of us that civic learning does not end in the classroom. It lives in experiences like this one. To our students in the audience, we hope tonight's inspired you to stay informed, stay curious, and stay involved. Because your voice truly matters in shaping the future of our city. I'd like to thank Lucas, Cameron, Ava, Claire, Maya, and Kevin. It's been a privilege to work with these young, intelligent, and articulate students. Thank you, please. Thank you, everyone, for spending an evening with us in the spirit of respect, collaboration, and community. Everyone have a wonderful night and have a safe trip home. Thank you.